Hello, my name's Al and today I'm going to show you how to bleed your SRAM bleeding edge brakes. To perform a bleed on your SRAM bleeding edge brakes, you're going to need a few bits and pieces. You're going to need a SRAM bleeding edge bleed kit, paper towel, rubber gloves, 2.5 and 4mm Allen keys, T10 and T25 Torx key, the correct bleed block for your brake, DOT 5.1 brake fluid, an atomizer with water in it. For this procedure, it's very much recommended that you wear some rubber gloves, some nitrile gloves, whatever you fancy. It's a good idea to wear some eye protection as well, some clear glasses. In case a syringe pops off or something, then you could get some DOT fluid in the eye. That's not very nice at all, so safety first. Next, we're going to prepare the syringes. So we've got our DOT fluid here, preferably new fluid in an unopened container. It does absorb water over time, so it will reduce its boiling point, which isn't a good thing. So we're going to prepare our lever syringe first. So this syringe needs to be 3/4 full. And we're going to remove the air from this syringe. Just make sure the nozzle is pointing up, and we're just going to push that big air bubble out of the syringe till we get a bit of fluid come out. Catch that in your tissue, and then we lock that off. That's the lever syringe ready. Put that to one side. For the caliper syringe, we just need a small amount of fluid in the lever. Like so. And we do the same. Just remove that large bubble of air, catch any excess in the tissue. And they're both ready. Now we're going to prepare the bike. So first of all, we're going to remove the wheel. We're working on the front brake here, so removing the front wheel. It's important to remove the wheel and the pads and get them well out of the way, because if any brake fluid comes into contact with either of them, then it's going to seriously affect your braking performance. We're working on a SRAM level brake here. On some of the other models, the pad retaining pin will have a clip on the end of it. On the level brake, the pin is actually inside the caliper, which prevents the pin from backing out. So pop that off, use some pliers, or I've just used a 2.5mm Allen key. And with the 2.5mm Allen key, we can now undo the pad retaining pin. Once that's out, put that somewhere safe, and we can remove our pads. With the pads and the rotor out of harm's way, we're now going to fit our bleed block. This is going to stop the pistons in the caliper from being pushed together. Before we fit the syringes, there's a couple of things that we need to check at the lever. First of all, we need to level it off. This bleed port is nice and flat. Just nip that up. If there's a bite point adjuster on your brake, for example on a guide RSC, then you would need to turn the bite point adjuster in the direction of the arrow all the way till it stops. As far as reach adjust is concerned, the end of the lever needs to be between 75 and 80mm away from the centre of your handlebar. Next, we're fitting the syringe at the lever. Before we do that, as a precautionary measure, I just like to add a bit of paper towel under the lever to catch any drips. T10 Torx, and we're just going to remove our bleed screw, put that somewhere safe. mop up any spills as you go. At the caliper end, we're removing our rubber dust cover. Put that somewhere safe. With a 4mm Allen key, we're undoing the bleed port, quarter of a turn, and then just nipping it back up. We can now fit our syringe with the bleeding edge adapter into the caliper. You push it into place. You should feel and hear it click into place. We're undoing the port by 1 full turn. So next we're going to bleed the whole system. So open the clamp on the lever syringe, and we're going to pass the fluid from this syringe into the caliper syringe, like so. Push the syringe all the way down, except for a small amount, because if there is any tiny bit of air stuck in there, we don't want to push that in. And then we're passing the fluid back from the caliper syringe into the lever syringe, and we're repeating the process until we see no bubbles coming out of the system. This brake's obviously very well bled because there's pretty much no bubbles at all. Once we're happy, we're at this point, then we're going to close the port at the caliper, like so. Now we're going to bleed the lever. First of all, we're going to pull the lever, give that a squeeze, and then we're going to pull the plunger up on this syringe, try and extract some air from the system. We're going to push it back down and pull it back up, and we're going to repeat this procedure until we stop getting any bubbles from the system. Be careful not to pull too hard, because you could pull air past the seals. Once you're happy that you've got most of the bubbles out of there, you're only getting tiny bubbles coming up out of the lever, then we just need to push the syringe back down. We can now close that off, and we're going to remove it and fit our bleed screw. Have your bleed screw in place on the end of your Torx key, and fit the plug. Just nip that up, and then we're going to mop up any excess fluid. Way to do this is just with some water and some paper towels. At the caliper end, we're going to pull our bleeding edge adapter out of the caliper, nip up the bleed screw, and then fit our bleed port plug. That just pulls straight out, don't turn it. We can now give the caliper a good clean. Before we fit our brake pads, we're going to remove or replace our rubber gloves. This will reduce the chance of getting any brake fluid on your brake pads. Now we're ready to fit our pads. So drop those into the caliper. Get your pad pin. Screw that into position. Nip that up. Fit your clip. Like so. Reposition your brake lever. And refit your wheel. With everything back together, we just need to test the system. First couple of pulls of the lever First one will definitely come back to the bar, just as we get a bit of pressure built up there. Check the system for leaks, making sure there's no fluid coming out of either of the bleed ports. Should all be good. Go out, ready to hit the trails. Thanks for watching. See you next time.